Now we're going to create a context which will be a global state for our application. So the data that you have in the context state will be available for the entire application. So when the user logs in, we get the user and token. So that one we will put in the context. All right. So let's go ahead and create a context. So inside the client folder in the root directory, let's create a file and let's call it context. Actually, let's create a folder. Here, let's create a folder context, and inside we create a context file called auth.js. By the way, you can have more than one context. So if we need, later we can create another context as well. So we just put it inside a folder. Now, first let's import React. And we're going to use state. That's where we're going to store the user and token. So use state. Use effect also we will be using later. So let me import now. So we import React. We import Axios. We also need to import async storage, because if the user and token is saved in the local storage, we want to grab that and populate the state in this context. All right, so that way if there is any data available when the screen reloads or user returns to your application, we can grab that data from there, and then so that they don't have to keep logging in each time. So that means, let me just go to one of the screens, sign in, just so that I can copy this import command. Back to context auth. Alright, so we import async storage as well. So to create a context, we need to use the use context hook. So we can import that, use context. I actually not use context, create context. Create context. And then to start using the create context, we can execute that and put in a variable. Let's call it auth context equals to create context, and this is a function we give. We just execute this function and that will give us the context. Okay, so we got the context. Now we need a provider as well. So const auth provider equals to, so here we can create a state just like in a regular React component. So const state set state equals to use state, and here in this state we want to store the user and token, right? So user, we give the default value of null, the empty object, and token will be the type of string. All right, so we got the state, and now we want to load the user and token from the local storage by default. Okay, so whenever the application is ready, so use effect, it takes a function as an argument, and second argument, the dependency, we leave it empty. So here we want to load the data from the local storage using async storage, and then we're going to put that in the state. So that way, if there is any value in the async storage, that will be populated in the state here. So let me create a function, load from async storage equals to async. So here, let me put the data that we get from async storage into this variable data. So await async storage dot get item by the name of @auth. If you remember, we have saved the response by the name of auth when we sign in and sign up. So we grab that, put in a variable data, Now once we get this data, we have to convert it into JavaScript object because we saved it as a JSON using JSON stringify, right? Now to start using it as JavaScript object, we can put it in a variable. Let's call it async stories as JSON parse. We're going to pass the JSON object to JSON data to JavaScript, right? So JSON parse and give the data to this function. That will give us the objects in this variable. All right. Now set state, we can put it in a state. First we spread the state, whatever data we have in the state, we spread it out, and then we update. Now we update the user with the data we get from the async storage. So as.user and then token as.token. Alright, so that way we grab this value and then put in the state. Now we need to execute this function, otherwise nothing happens. So here let's execute using the parentheses. Alright, so use effect, all this code is here. So each time our application loads, this will get fired, and as a result we will get the user and token in the state. So that means we can start using context now. So all you have to do is export auth context and auth provider. So to start using this one, actually we have to do one more thing here. We have to return something, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to wrap our entire application using auth provider, and that will provide these functions, state and then set state, to any other components. For example, those components will be accessible as children props. Okay, so you can do props and props.children, or even better, just destructure straight away children. All right, so you want to return the children component, which can be anything like sign in, sign up, any other page. We will wrap our application with auth provider. All right, so when you return, we're going to use auth context dot provider. So we get this access to this provider, so we return auth context provider, and here what do we want to provide? We want to provide the value that would be this one, state and set state. You can just copy this one. So this is the state, and to update the state, this is the function set state, right? So both of these, if we can pass as a value to any other components, that's all we want, right? So then this state will be global, accessible anywhere using the auth provider, and from any component you can easily access the state and update the state. So you pass the value like that, and then you return children component. All right, simple as that. That's our context. Now later we'll come back and configure Axios as well, so that you don't have to send the token each time when you make a request. You can configure Axios so that the token will be sent in the headers globally. All right, so we'll come back to that. At the moment we have the context. Now we can start using it. So let's go to, where do you want to access this one? So at the moment, let's go to app.js, and we have the navigation here, right? So this is where you want to import the context provider and wrap everything in. So we import auth provider, destructure, auth provider from context, and then here all this stack navigator you wrap with auth provider. All right, simple as that. So once you do that, the value, the state and set state will be accessible to any other components. So you can give this a try. To try that, let's create a screen. Let's do that in the next lecture. Let's create a home screen and let's try accessing the state, the context, just so that we can see that everything is working. So we created a context. We have wrapped our application with auth provider. So let's go ahead and give it a try. So let's create a new screen, home screen. Let's create a basic component here. So import React, and to start using context, we need to use the use context hook. So let's import that as well. Let's import some components, text and view from React Native. Actually, let's import text from Colorado and just the native view from React Native. So import from Colorado React Native text, and then we want to import the context as well. So you need to import the use context hook and the context itself, which is auth context from. So we go one step up, go inside context and grab from auth. Okay, so we got the auth context as well. Now let's create home and return. Let me return a view. Inside view text, I'm going to write something out. Let me just write home for now. Home. Export default home, and let's make sure we import this one in app.js. Screens home. Let's put it in the stack. Oh, sorry, something happened. Change the name to something happened here. I think I duplicated. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me copy that, put it down, change this to home. That's a screen name component home. Okay, and initial route, let me change to home for now, just so that we can give it a try. Device sake. Alright, so you can see we have home. We can barely see that, but it's there. Alright, so home. So what you want to do here is I want to try accessing the context state. So for that, we can use we can destructure. So we want to get the access to state, set state, that's from the context, right? So to use that, we can use context and give auth context. Perfect. Now you can actually try having a look at the context state, and you can also upgrade the state. So let's have a look. JSON stringify. Make sure to put it inside text. So JSON stringify state no for. Let's make sure we wrap everything inside curly brace because this is JavaScript, and that is awesome. You can see here we have got the user and token from the state. How great is that? Now you can see this global state can be accessed on any components, just like this one. You need to import use context hook, import auth context, and you can access the global state and update the global state like this on any component or any screens. All right, so we could access the context state. You saw here, it's pretty cool. Now let's update the state when user sign in or sign up. Right, so here in the sign in page you can see we have saved in the local storage. Now instead of just saving in the async storage, let's also push this to the context. All right, so for that we import use context, and then to start using context we can use context. So we need to destructure state and set state from use context, and we give auth context. So let's make sure we import auth context as well. Import auth context from context auth. Okay, so we import auth context, we use the context, so that means we should have access to this state. Now let's save in the async storage, and let's save. Let me just put it right here on top. Save in context. So set state, all I have to do is set state, spread whatever is already there in the state, and update the user. Now before we do that, actually we don't have to spread, we can just set data, because this auth state only contains the user and token, and here in the response data, that is exactly what we get, user and the token. So we can just directly use set state data. Okay, set state data, and once user logs in, we can even redirect them to home page. So we can do that. We show the alert, and then we can navigate. So we have already destructured navigation, so we can use that to redirect. Navigation dot navigate, and we navigate to home. So whatever screen name you have used in your navigation here in the app, whatever name you have used, the exact same name you use to navigate the user. Now this code, what it will do, this is in the sign in. So once user signs in, you save the data in the async storage, you save the data in the context, and you navigate the user to home page. Let's do the same in sign up as well. So first thing, you want to import use context, then you want to import auth context, context. Let me just double check the import. Yeah, that's right. So that's context, and then to start using context, we can use context. Let's destructure state, set state from use context, and we give auth context. Okay, let me just fix that, something happened. Okay, context, we have that context now. So here let's save to context, set state data, and then we can redirect the user. Navigation dot navigate to home. Awesome. Now before I try, I want to do one more thing, and that is configuring the Axios. Alright, so let me go to the context. The reason I want to configure Axios is later we need to send the token that we have here. We need to send this token to our server if you want to access some protected routes, or maybe to create a new post, delete your post. That time we need to apply the authentication in the server, so that time we have to send this token in the Axios headers each time. So to avoid that, you can just configure Axios here, get this from the local storage and put in the Axios headers, so that it will send automatically each time. You don't have to manually do it, in each and every screens like here. All right, so for that, let me start. At the moment, we just configure the base URL, and later we'll come back and do this, because I want to show you the context in which situation you need to do this. So until then, we will just wait. All right, so let's go to the context auth. We have the Axios. So to configure Axios, let me put that just right here. So Axios dot defaults dot base URL. So we get this property. Here you can set the base URL. So base URL is you can see here we are using API that is coming from config file. So let's go to the config. So we have the URL. This is the base URL, right? So we can use that. So let's go to context. Let me import that. Import API from config /auth. Okay, now something happened here. All right, so here that would be API. All right, so that's the base URL. We configure Axios this way. Later we will do more, but at the moment let's leave it like this. Now once you do this, you can go back here and sign in, and you don't have to keep writing the API. Now you can just use /signin, because this base URL has already been set here in the Axios defaults. All right, so that's the beauty. You don't have to do that. You don't have to keep writing the full path, the base URL. You just give the endpoint. So that's sign in. Let's go to sign up, and let's do the same here. Perfect. Now that means we don't need this as well here. We don't have to keep importing that one. Okay, let's give it a try. Okay, we got some issues here. Config import, that's in auth.js. Let's go to auth. Let's import API from, let me check if it is export default or something else. Config, okay, export const. Okay, so that's right. Let me give it a reload. Unable to resolve module. So that is config. Oh, sorry. Config is a file, right? It's an individual file. Okay, that's right. Before I was trying config/auth. That's not right. This is config. Awesome. Let's reload. All right, beautiful. We got that. Now let me quickly go to the app, change this default route to sign in. Command R was the shortcut, but it doesn't work. Okay. Alright, so sign in. Let me sign in, and you can see here, once we sign in, we get this alert, we get redirected, and we have the token and user information in this state. Beautiful. Now we're going to focus on creating a footer navigation which will look something like this. Alright, so we're going to have a couple of icons and the name, and when they click we will take them to different screens. Right, so at the moment we have already implemented context, authentication, everything is working fine. This time we can sign in, get redirected to home screen. So let's go ahead, create the footer tab, something like this. So we can do that inside components. Let's create a folder called nav, and inside here let's create a file, let's call it footer tabs. Alright, so let's begin some imports. So import React and use state hook from React. Next one, let's bring some components from React Native. So we want view, and we're going to use touchable opacity, which will give us this nice press effect whenever user touch on that item. Okay, so what you want to do is when user press any of these icons, we want to give them this button pressed kind of experience. So for that we use touchable opacity from React Native. Next one, let's import text. We need that for writing anything, so that one we bring from Colorado, text from. And then we want to access the context as well. Based on the context, actually let's wait for that. We might need context, but at the moment let's just wait for that. So we can even do export default from some footer tabs, right? Footer tabs equals to, sorry, it's not arrow function. You could use arrow function just like I've been doing on any other components, but you can also do it this way as well. So let me close out the tabs for now. Alright, so here let me return a view. So this view we're going to use flex to just horizontally spread out each of these elements. So view, and then inside view we're going to use touchable opacity, and inside touchable opacity we have to have two items. One is icon, you can see one is icon and another is text. So we can wrap both of those in, I think, fragment. We can use fragment, and then let me just write text for now. We'll wait for the icons. We're going to use font awesome icons. So let me just give it a try first. Let's see how this looks. So let me import this one and give it a try before we work on the icons and everything else, styling. So let me go to home, import footer tabs from, we go one step up, components, nav, footer tabs, and then let's put that here. And you can see here we got that home. You can see when you press, when you touch, you get this nice effect because we're using touchable opacity. So that's looking good. So here we want to have multiple tabs like home, post, links, and account. So let me just copy this one, copy touchable opacity, and paste a few more times. Let's change this to post links and account. Post links and actually we should create a component and reuse instead of repeating the code 4 times. So we're going to do that, but let's just continue with this one until we have some basic styling, and then we're going to reuse so that we don't repeat the same code multiple times. Okay, so for now I just want to spread them out like this horizontally. So let's give that a try. So we use styling here. So we use the flex direction row. Okay, as soon as I did flex direction row, you can see now it is in the horizontal directions. That's pretty cool. Next one, a bit of a margin. So margin we apply 10 on the right, left, and up and down. So you can see we got a bit of a space. That's good. Let me also apply some margin horizontal, 30. I guess a bit more space on the edges. Justify content, we do space between. Awesome. Okay, so we got that. Okay, so nicely spaced between. This looks good. Now we need to make sure it is in the bottom. So these footer tabs, let's see in the home. So footer tabs we have put in the view, that is the wrapping component. So let's give this a style, flex 1, make it a flex box. Here let's try justify content, space between. Alright, so it goes down here, and you will also notice that it is all the way to the top. You can see there's a time, and then the battery and the Wi-Fi icons. You can barely see it's because it's a white background, but you can see these icons. So the screen stretches all the way to the very top and very bottom. Now there's one thing you can do if you don't want your content to go all the way to the top, which is true in most cases because it's hard to read. Instead of view, you can use another component that's called safe area view. So let's try using that safe area view, and let's replace view with safe area view. And as soon as I save, you will notice there's the content moves a bit lower. So when I save, you can see now it is a bit down here, and we have these battery, Wi-Fi, and the time all the way to the top, and then the footer tabs here. So this is nice whenever you want to make sure the content is nicely visible. Use a safe area view. Now we want to show the icons. Just like here, we need to use those icons, and there are many different ways of using icons. One of the easiest and most popular one is using font awesome icons in React Native. So we can search React Native vector icons. So you can Google for this one. By the way, there is another quite popular one as well, that is also Expo icons. Alright, so if you don't like the font awesome icons, you can check out Expo vector icons as well, but I'm just going to stick with the font awesome because that's quite popular and easy to use. So React Native vector icons, let's go to npm, and let's run this command. And while it's happening, let's go to the footer tabs, and let me just import that here. Import font awesome 5 from React Native vector icons / font awesome 5. Let me start it again. npm start. Alright, so here font awesome 5 from React Native vector items font awesome 5. Then we can use that. So we work on the first one, and then we're just going to reuse this one instead of repeating. So font awesome, view, touchable opacity, font awesome 5. We can just use here font awesome 5. Okay, and then we give a name, home. So most of the time you can just use the standard font awesome icon names. Okay, so let me refresh. Font awesome, we give the name. Next we can give the size. Let's give value of 25. Let's sign in. Okay, now you can see here we have this beautiful font awesome icon. If I didn't give any value, okay, so that requires the value. If I remove that one, that's the standard size, so obviously we want that 25. Next one, style. We can write a style in here. We need to center it. You can see it's a little bit it's not centered, so margin bottom, bit of a margin on the bottom also we want. It's very close, so margin bottom 3, and align self center. All right, so that's looking good. Now you can see we have the same component repeated here, so instead of that, let's try to reuse. So let me just cut this out, and this one we can put in a separate component. You can put in a separate component, or you can just leave in this same file. Let's put in the same file because it's just used in this component. So let me just put here on top, export const tab equals to, and we can just use parentheses, and whatever you cut from earlier, just paste here. Alright, so that touchable opacity, the font awesome icon, you put in this different component. Even though we put in the same file, you could put in a separate file, it doesn't matter. So here you will be giving the props. Actually, let me just try without anything, and then I will show you. So that tab now we can use here. That's a component, and we have home. Awesome. Now let's use this 3 more times. Okay, so that's good. Now all we need to do is pass different names, different icons as props. That way we can reuse this one, so we don't have to keep writing it, right? So we want the name, unique name. All right, so we can give the name as props, and I think that's all we need. So we just need the name, and let's replace this with name. right? So here, from here, we can give name home, name home. Okay, so that should be small. That's for the icon name. Okay, so that's the name. And let me just copy that, put it here, change this to, let me just double check. So we're going to call it home, post, links, and account. Post, links, and account. Sorry that they don't seem to work. Looks like we have to give a different name for the icon and different name. Oh yeah, that's right. So we have to do that. All right, so let's make it caps lock. Home, post, link, and account. So we keep the name and we use that here. Alright, so we got the name, home, post, all that. Now the icons, right? So icons also we can give another prop here. Let me just write multi-line. So hold your option key and then just click, write multi-line. So here I want to use, let's say, icon name. Or actually, let me just use, change this to text. All right, so that would be the text, and the name, we just give the name. Okay, so text we display here, and the name will be the icon name. So home, for post plus square. By the way, these names you can just get from the fontawesome.com, right? Next one for links, this one we call it list, list ordered, just OL, list ordered list, and then this one is a account, so we use user icon. Okay, all right, that's good. Now we just have to change this to text name and then text. Beautiful. Okay, so we've got these icons, full tabs, nice. Now next thing we want to do is when any of these icons clicked, obviously we have to take them to a different screen, and then we need to show this as active link. So maybe we just give some color so that user knows on which tab they are currently at. Alright, so we can work on that. Now before we do that, we have to do something with the navigation. So if we have the logged in user, then we want to show home screen. When they log in, we redirect them to home screen and show these icons. But if user is not logged in, then we want to show the sign up and sign in screens. So we have to do a bit of a conditional rendering on the screens. So we do that, and then we will continue working on these tabs to make them active on click, and then we also need to create these different screens. Alright, so now we're going to focus on the navigation. So here, at the moment we have everything inside app. You can see that all the screens we are putting here. Now instead of that, let's put it in a separate file so that later we can do a bit more and apply authentication, protect routes for only for the logged in user. So what I'm trying to do here is if we have the logged in user, then show the home screen when they sign in, redirect them to home screen and show all these icons. Otherwise, we just show them two screens, sign in or sign out. All right, so for that, let's move this navigator to a separate component just to make things easier. So components inside here, let's create, we already have nav. So let's create a file, let's call it screens nav. Okay, and let's go to app. So basically this is the code we need. So to make things easier, let's copy everything and we'll come here and just remove these code. Okay, so let's go to screens nav, paste here. Let's change the name screens nav. So here we are. So to import these files, we have to go one step, two step up. Okay, so we got these imports, the context. For context, we just go one step, two step up, and that's about it. Okay, so we need the stack navigator, so we have that. We have all the navigations. Now let's save this file and let's go to app. Now we don't need all this because we already have in screens nav. So let me just get rid of all this and let's import that screens nav from components nav screen nav, and then here we just return that screens nav. Okay, now you can get rid of all that, we don't need here. Stack navigator also we don't need. Awesome. Okay, so all our navigation is here now. So let me sign in just to make sure everything is working, and it is beautiful. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to protect the routes. For the logged in user, we show home screen. For not logged in user, we want to show sign in and sign out. Okay, so we can access the auth context here and access the user from the state, and based on that we can decide if we have the logged in user or not. If we have, then we just show this one, so we show this. Now the problem here is you can see we have the auth provider here. Now to use auth context, we need to be in a component which is wrapped with auth provider. Now unfortunately all the code is here, auth provider is here, so we cannot actually use auth context unless we move this to a separate file. We can do that, and then that would wrap all our application, including all the screens and components, and then we can easily access the auth context here. So that means we should move this to another file actually. So let's create a new file here in the root directory. Let's call that navigation. I could do it earlier, but I wanted to show you why we have to do it this way, so just to give you this context, just so that you understand why we are creating additional files and going through all this. All right, so screens nav, again, let me actually just copy this again, just make things easier. Let's go to the navigation and just paste here, change this to, I want to call it root navigation. Okay, so root navigation. Now here we use auth provider, and here instead of all this, we just import the screen snap. All right, so actually let me go to the app, and we don't actually need the screen snap here. Instead of here, we can import in the navigation now. All right, now the screen nav, just like we did in the app, we can do that here. So auth provider, that is the only thing we want here. All this navigation we don't need, so let's remove that because that is here in the screen snap. Right, so you can see here, the only reason we had to create this file is because we wanted to wrap the all the screens in the auth provider. Okay, so that's what we did here. We have the navigation container, auth provider, and we have the screen snap. Now this way we can now use auth context in any of these screens. And later, if you create another provider, for example post provider or blogs provider, you can just wrap here, bring and wrap. All right, so that's looking good. So let me remove that. Let me remove this one. So basically we have wrapped everything with navigation container and auth provider. Now let's go back to screen snap, and here let's remove this provider from here. Let's remove from here, and actually we need to remove the container as well, which is already here. The container and provider is here, so we can remove all that from here. Okay, perfect. Now we just returning the stack navigator with all these screens. So this one we're not using, let's remove that. Perfect. Okay, so we cleaned up our screen snap, moved the navigator and auth provider to this file, and then we just import all the screen navs. Okay, so all these are here, and now this root navigation pretty much contains our entire application. So this is what we want to return here in the app. Right, so instead of screen snap, now we're going to return the root navigation. Let's import. That is from navigation. Okay, export. Okay, that looks good. Let me just give a reload. Okay, so I've got this error. I may have to restart. Let me just double check all my imports. So this is the app. We are importing root navigation from the same directory, navigation. Let's go to the navigation. We have navigation container, auth provider. Okay, so that looks like that path is wrong. Screen nav from this file, it's in the root. So we go inside components, screen nav. So that looks good, but this one, let me just check. This one is / context auth. So that looks good. Let me go to screen snap. So from here we go one step up, two step up, and get these files from screen. Okay, so that looks good. Let me quit the application and let me reload. Sometimes when we make multiple changes, it's better. It requires the restart. Alright, so let me go open Expo. Okay, thank God. Looks like the restart was all it needed. Beautiful. Okay, so make sure you have no issues as well. So as long as you have imported from the right files, it should be alright, because we haven't really done any major changes in the application. We just moved to a different files. Before, everything was here in the app.js. Now we used the navigation. So whatever code we had here, it's pretty much here with the auth provider, and then the individual screens we move to a separate file. Alright, so let's work on protecting routes. So for the logged in user, we show home. For others, we show these sign up and sign in. So for that, we need to import context. So we need to access the user and token from the context. So import auth context from. So from here, we need to go one step up, two step up, context auth. And to use context, we need to bring in the use context tool. And to start using that one, we can use, we can destructure state and set state from use context auth context. Beautiful. Alright, now let's just quickly console log here. Actually, let me just put the authenticated status in a variable. So const authenticated equals to state. Make sure we have the state and state dot token, and make sure we have token in the state, and that is not equals empty. And state dot user is not equals null, because by default that's the value we use, right? So by default token will be empty string, user will be null. So if that is not true, then we have the user, right? So console.log, let me just write here, authenticated Okay, now we have console logged, and immediately you see authenticated true. Awesome. Now based on this value, true or false, we can decide which screens to show. So here, let's use the ternary. Alright, so here, let me just cut this one. Actually, let me just cut this one, home. So if authenticated, we show home. So we use ternary here. Authenticated, we use home, or let me just go down and just cut them and put it here. Now I need to make sure to use fragment because it's more than one item, so that's how we do it. Okay, so if authenticated, we show home. Otherwise, we show sign up and sign in. Perfect. Now we can check this out. At the moment, let's go to screen snap. Actually, we're here. Initial route name is sign in, right? Initial route name is sign in. But when they sign in, we take them to home page. Okay, let's try changing this. Oh, actually we have the logged in user. We need to implement that feature to sign out. That way we can give it a try. So I think we should do that first. Let's create something, some kind of icon or some header section, so that we can show the sign out icon. When they click on that, we will remove the token and user information from the local storage. So that is a good opportunity for me to show you how you can use the header as well, so you can and customize your headers, just the back arrows showing the title, showing a custom title, things like that. So we will cover quite a lot as well on the header section as well. So at the moment we can't really give it a try because we have the logged in user, we have the information in the async storage. So let's try implementing sign out. So when they click on the button, we sign out, we empty this from the async storage, and then we can give it a try if they can actually access home page without signing in, which they shouldn't be based on this one, but we can give that a try. So first let's create a header tabs component, something we can put in the header section. So components nav header tabs.js. Alright, so let's start with some imports. Import React, and we import use context, and then we import some components from React Native, view, touchable opacity, safe area view from React Native. Next one, we import text from Colorado React Native text, and then we import auth context as well. So auth context from context auth. Awesome. Now let's create our component header tabs equals to. Let's export. So here we want to access the context. So const state set state equals to use context auth context, and then we return a icon. We can use a font awesome icon for that, which we can import. Let's import. So import font awesome 5 from React Native vector icons font awesome 5. Okay, so by the way, this library provides many other icon libraries, so we're using the font awesome 5. So they have another one called ionic icons and some other ones. So you can obviously check out the documentation if you want to learn more about that. So context, let's return. So we use safe area view so that it is not going all the way to the very top. Safe area view, inside here we're going to create a touchable opacity so that it gives this nice pressed effect like a button, and here we're going to show the icon. So font awesome 5, give it a name. So they have the sign out icon, so sign out alt, size 25, color, let's try this one, FF9900. It will give us, I think, kind of a orange color. Alright, so at the moment we can't preview that, so let's import this one. So header tabs. So let's go to screen snap. Let's import header tabs from. So here, screen snap, we go one step up, two step up, get inside components, nav, header tabs, and then this is a component, right? So this header tab is a component, and on these screens you have the option to show the component as well. Alright, so let's try that. We want to show that in the home. right? So home, so we have the name component and then options. We can pass this options object, and here we can give a different title to this screen as well. At the moment you can't see anything. If you want to, because we have done header shown false. Now if you change that, let's comment that out for now, and let's give the title. Actually, let me just remove this just to show you what happens. Okay, so when we don't use header shown false, we get the header by default, right? So this default header has this name, which is the screen name. That is the one used by default. Now if you want, you can change that. So in this options, individually choose whether you want to show header or not. You can do that, or you can change the title. Let's say links daily. You can see that's how you can change the header option. Now in our case, we don't really want to do that, so let's leave that. What do you want to do? Actually, I think that's a good one. Let's keep it because it's the name of our application, right? So let's leave that. That's title and then header. I want to show the icon in the header right section here. So they have this property you can use called header right, and then this takes a function as an argument. So not argument, the value, the function. We use arrow function, and this function will can return any custom component. For example, text. You can write something in. You can show the button, or in our case, we want to show this component header tabs. Right, so let's use that. Okay, now how good is that? You can see here we have the icon from the header tabs, and we were able to show here in the screen using this options header right. So that one you can see here, that is the font awesome icon. That is the one you see. It has this nice press effect because we're using touchable opacity. So here what we want to do is we want to implement the sign out feature, right? So const sign out equals to async. So we need to import that async storage, right? So we want to use that. So let me quickly go to one of the previous screens, sign in, just so that I can copy because it's quite long. Copy, close that, and let's put that here. Okay, so we got the async storage. Now we can use, first let's update the context state, right? So set state token empty, and then user back to null. We do that, and then also remove from the local storage. So await. So I keep saying local storage, but I mean async storage. Async storage dot remove item, and we want to remove item by the name of add auth. That's how we saved it, right? And that's all we need to do. Now we can execute this function on press. We can do that here in the touchable opacity. On press, sign out. Awesome. Now we can give it a try. When we press this, this should be removed from the context. It will be removed from the async storage, and we have the code here in the screen snap. You can see here we are looking for the state, the token and user. If it is empty, user is null, immediately we are showing the sign out, sign in and sign up component. Okay, let me actually put this on top. By default we want to show the sign in. The order is important. Okay, so let's give it a try. Let's see how this works. Let me press this one, and as expected it works. We are here in the sign in page. Great. Now to give it a try, let's change the initial route name to home. Let's see if we can still access the home page without being logged in. We shouldn't be able to, but let's give it a try. Alright, so you can see here I have set the initial route name to home, but still we can't because we don't have the logged in user. Let me just have a look at it by reload. Yes, you can see even though initial route is home, it's still in the sign in because that's user is not logged in. Now the order of screens is important because if you do this one and give a reload, we get sign up now because that is on top. So that is also useful to know sometimes. Okay, so that's good. We got the sign in and sign up. We have the protected routes. When they log in, they land on the home page. When they log out, they land on the sign in. Now one thing I want to do here is on the sign in screen, I don't want to show the header like this one, so I can easily change that by using options, header shown false. You can see now there is no header. Beautiful.